a strong economy, creating meaningful jobs, supporting entrepreneurs, incentivizing small businesses, and wealth creation for Bahamians. Mr. Speaker, let me remind the PLP administration and Prime Minister of their legacy in the last 4 years. GDP growth remains anemically low. Unemployment stubbornly high. The murder rate has never been higher. The national debt continues to rise. The debt to GDP ratio is worsening. The middle class is being decimated. Poverty level is an all-time high. The Bahamas continues to fall in the ease of doing business rankings. We are one downgrade away from junk status, and there has been no Freedom of Information Act, so transparency remains a dream. As the next government, Mr. Speaker, my FNM administration will deepen and strengthen our democracy by improving our system of governance. The Prime Minister will act as CEO. We will have employed a permanent press secretary who will regularly report to the press, especially after parliamentary meetings. We will institute
Honorable members.
We will institute term limits for Prime Minister. Yes. A recall system for non-performing members of Parliament. Primaries for constituency candidate elections. An anti-corruption bill as an independent agency and its director, reporting to an independent director of public prosecution with no oversight by the Attorney General. Financial independence for the House Speaker.
You hear that, Mr. Speaker?
More effective public disclosure.
Oh boy.
Making an amendment so that the Public Disclosure Commissioner can refer cases directly to an independent director of public prosecution. We will strengthen and properly staff the Auditor General's office, including giving him the authority to refer cases directly to an independent director of public prosecution. An ombudsman, contractor's bill with a lien clause, and a contractor general bill. Mr. Speaker, we will work towards the modernization of the over-the-hill communities while ensuring as far as possible the traditional character of these areas. We will create multi-purpose community centers. We will upgrade or to create cultural centers, National Museum and Library, performing arts centers in collaboration with experts in these areas and philanthropic individuals and organizations. In the opportunity and shareholding economy, the FNM will promote economic growth through innovation by utilizing the College of Bahamas campus as an incubator for scientific research, development, and technological advances. Provide small business incubators and incentivize. Devote serious investment to building creative industries, which, according to the IDB's Orange Economy, is capable of embracing more people in entrepreneurship using the talents that so many Bahamians possess in Junkanoo arts, design, visual arts, straw work, dance, music, writing, publishing, theater, and so on. Equally important, the creative industry can be more protective of natural resources. Properly exploited, creativity can add millions of dollars and much needed diversification to the Bahamian economy. We will move, Mr. Speaker, towards a national solar energy program. And our goal, Mr. Speaker, is that each home will eventually become a self-contained power station. We will encourage net metering so that through the solar system, individuals can receive funds. Loans can be granted to individuals for purchase of solar and installation. Installation of solars will subsequently result in a decrease in one's electricity bill. The additional disposable cash can then be utilized to repay the loan. In addition, the savings on this disposable cash can be utilized to spend in the moms and papa stores, in the communities, in other stores and schools, and as a result, help to boost one's economy. It will at the same time decrease our demand on oil and thus having great influence on our foreign reserve and our carbon emission. Mr. Speaker, the FNM government, through energy security, we will prepare the Bahamas for the energy internet revolution, just as we see today the communication internet revolution. Using modern technology, we can cause there to be a real-time connection between government agencies for a more efficient information and service processing. We will amend the Hotel Encouragement Act by reducing the number of rooms needed to access the concessions, thus encouraging more bread and breakfast facilities and increasing the room inventory, both in New Providence and the Family Islands. We would continue a land reform program so that each and every Bahamian will have an opportunity to own land in his or her country. We will streamline government agencies and eliminate costly regulations which hamper growth and breeds government inefficiencies, waste, corruption, and cronyism. We will create a business-friendly and enabling environment conducive for the establishment and operation of successful businesses. We'll make available land and government crown lands to Bahamians at concessional rates for the construction of owner-occupied homes and the expansion of domestic investment in our economy. We will encourage foreign direct investments in clear, transparent, and favorable conditions for Bahamians, and incentivize Bahamian businesses to return to the Family Islands by making Crown and government lands available to Bahamians at special rates to create employment as part of our return to the islands initiative. The FNM, Mr. Speaker, will enact the Whistleblower Protection Act. We will enact the Campaign Contribution Regulation Act, and thus introducing campaign finance reform. In this new and better Bahamas, Mr. Speaker, I commit to labor unceasingly to ensure that under an FNM government, we will focus and devote all the diverse and brilliant talents of our party and of Bahamians, young and old. Mr. Speaker, my pledge and assurance as FNM leader, I wish to assure you, this Honorable House, and the Bahamian public at large, that our reason for being a political party in our Bahamas is to provide a scandal-free, accountable government throughout our term in office. We ask you, Bahamians, to place your trust in us, and we will honor that trust and honor you as Bahamian people. We will do the much important work to be done and address many of the problems caused or ignored by the PLP during their term in government. We will fight to strengthen our economy. We will relentlessly attack the long simmering problem of crime and its root causes. We will rebuild our country's aging infrastructure and put in place social programs to aid Bahamians, young and old, during difficult times. We promise, Mr. Speaker, to commit to always work on the Bahamian people's behalf and for the benefit of our children and the next generation. And as I close, I once again repeat, the last 4 years have been nothing but a long, dark night of misery for the Bahamian people. And as the Bible declares, weeping endureth for a night, but joy, more joy comes in the morning. Mr. Speaker, morning is dawning. The rising sun will break through the cloud storms, through the storm clouds. And oh, what a sunshine that will be.
Sunrise.
The sunshine. The sunrise will usher in a new and better Bahamas. Yes. Under an FNM government, we will focus on growing the economy, creating meaningful jobs and a more prosperous Bahamas, reducing public debt, reducing poverty, growing a middle class, creating a safer Bahamas, creating a more educated Bahamas, creating a more accountable Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, we are now preparing for a convention. I will enter as leader of the Free National Movement, and I will emerge as leader of the Free National Movement. Mr. Speaker,
Go with it. Go with it.
Mr. Speaker, I repeat.
Members. We can bring you all in.
We are now preparing for a convention. I will enter as the FNM leader, and I will merge as the FNM leader. The delegates, Mr. Speaker, the delegates will rock with talk. The young people, Mr. Speaker, will rock with talk. The family islands and the entire Bahamas will rock with talk. My deputy will rock with talk. And as I look at your face, Mr. Speaker, as I look at your face and I see the grimace and the smile on your face, I know, Mr. Speaker, you are prepared to rock with talk. The 5,000 plus children that I've delivered into this world who are now able to vote will rock with talk. And I say to them, Mr. Speaker, I say to my 5,000 odd voting babies that I've delivered, I've delivered you safely into this world, and it's now time for you to deliver me and the FNM. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this great country of ours.
Member,
Mr. Speaker.
Your sign fell down. I was asked if that was symbolic.
Mr. Speaker, this great country of ours will again thrive. We will thrive because we do what we say. We keep our promises, and we pick people over politics. We recognize, Mr. Speaker, it's the people's time. It is truly time for the Bahamas to rock with talk and the FNM. Mr. Speaker, I invite all Bahamas, I invite all Bahamians to roll up your sleeves and come with me as we build a society of full employment, secure jobs, safe streets, good schools, adequate, accessible, affordable health care, a social security net for the least able to care for themselves, and a Bahamas marked by love of God and compassion for our fellow Bahamians. Mr. Speaker, it ain't long now. But Mr. Speaker, before I close, I would like to put a question on the record to the Prime Minister so that he can inform this honorable House when he speaks and the Bahamian people who has a right to know whether he had received a letter from the Chinese requesting all of the tax concessions that was mentioned, citizenship for so many individuals, land, and whatever else. I think, Mr. Speaker, the public, the Bahamians, have a right to know. And certainly we in the FNL would like to know. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, honorable member. Member for Marathon, you rise.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to address two issues that were raised during the contribution. I didn't want to interrupt the member. The first one, Mr. Speaker, was that the member said that there was no visible plan for education. And I found that rather curious, particularly because the member had consented to a bipartisan committee on education, and they, over the last 2 years, have drafted a shared vision for education 2030, which I tabled in this House on Thursday past. The opposition was a part of that, including the former Minister of Education, Carl Bethel, QC, and the member for St. Anne's, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am concerned because I don't want there to be any concern by those who have worked on that plan to think that the opposition, and particularly the leader of the opposition, is now undermining that shared vision. And I just want to remind the member of a quote that I read in here that I included in the 150-some page document which shows what has been done in education. And that quote came from Carl Bethel, QC, where he talked about the shared vision. And he says, and I quote, "The laudable aim of forging a nonpartisan and shared vision for education has been a goal of successive ministers of education. I congratulate Minister Jerome Fitzgerald upon continuing this endeavor. It appears that we have now achieved, at the very least, a workable framework for further progress. The detailed steps necessary to reimagine and implement a new, results-oriented and flexible education system capable of responding to the individual needs of each student will take the ongoing goodwill of all social partners, irrespective of the changes in political administrations, Mr. Speaker." And so, Mr. Speaker, there is a visible plan. It's been tabled, it's been worked on. The leader of the opposition, the member for Kalani, is quite aware of it. I've congratulated him for exhibiting the political maturity necessary for us to get this far. And I said it's probably the proudest moment I've had as minister and in politics, and probably the biggest accomplishment we have for education. And so I don't want there to be mixed messaging from a political standpoint when the leader of the opposition would get up and say there's no visible plan for education. That undermines what we have done. So I want him to be very careful when he makes such statements, particularly when last week, Thursday, I went to great lengths to table those documents and to explain what we were doing. The second point, Mr. Speaker, is the member spoke about opportunities for Family Island students and the fact that Family Island students are disadvantaged, particularly with opportunities. I also made the point during my contribution that scholarships had doubled, more than doubled actually, from some 7.75 million in 2011 to over 16 million now in 2016. And so a lot of those opportunities have been afforded to Family Islands. As a matter of fact, from the College of Bahamas and Scholarship Division, over the last 2 years, they have actually gone into public schools, senior high public schools throughout the islands, informing senior high students of the opportunities that are available for them and encouraging them to apply to College of Bahamas or abroad. I also stated that the number of scholarships granted to COB students had increased by more than 50%, as well as the fact that more than $1 million was provided for opportunities there. And so we have made tremendous efforts to bring equity throughout the system. And I can tell you, when I became minister, there was disproportionality when it came to the distribution of scholarships throughout the Family Islands, without a doubt. I had all the data prepared so I could know what was being given to each island. I showed those statistics two senior members and the scholarship division and the College of the Bahamas, we made a concerted effort to make sure that Family Islands increase. And I can tell you, Grand Bahama in particular has been the greatest recipient of that change in policy, without a doubt. I can say that hands down, Mr. Speaker. And so I don't want there to be a misperception with regard to that, Mr. Speaker. The last point, Mr. Speaker, is the member spoke about doubling the investment in education but not building any new schools or any senior high schools, I think was the word he used. I just want to make the point that I've made over and over, that over the past 20+ years, we have built a number of schools, Mr. Speaker. That has not improved our academic output at all. At all. New schools have not increased our academic output at all. All of the interventions that I've mentioned that we have instituted over the past 4 years, whether it's the Mabel Walker Training Institute for Teachers, the Marjorie Davis Special Education, the $5 million being invested in technology, the implementation of the Student Achievement Unit, or even the high school diploma, standardizing and raising the standard. These are things, Mr. Speaker, that we have put in place to undergird the improvement of our educational system, and that is captured in the Shared Vision for Education 2030, Mr. Speaker. And so I don't want the opposition or anybody to think by building a new school we will increase academic output. What we have done is we have doubled our investment in all of these other areas, in areas that we think within the classroom, Mr. Speaker, we can do things to improve our academic output, and we're seeing the positive results of that, Mr. Speaker. So I just wanted to put those things. I mentioned them all during my presentation. Last week, Thursday, I took a full 2 hours to talk about nothing but education, just to make sure that nothing was left out. But obviously, the member may not have heard all of it, but I tabled both documents, and I would encourage him to do that. But particularly as leader of the opposition, I want to ensure that there's no mixed messages when it comes to how we move forward in education. I've been very, very particular about trying to keep politics out of education, and so far, Mr. Speaker, we've done a great job of it, and I just want to encourage
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kalani, your response?
Speaker, I would only say that if the member had listened to me carefully, what I specifically spoke about scholarships for the Family Island students, scholarships, Family Island students once they qualified, and I also spoke about complete accommodation, Mr. Speaker. I also spoke about stipend while they're attending the institution. A stipend, Mr. Speaker, is very dear to me. I went off to school, and I had to live on $1 per week buying Crafton and Kool-Aid. I know what it's like, Mr. Speaker. Those parents, when they leave, when they send their kids here to New Providence, yes, they may have accommodation, yes, they may have scholarship, but what about food, stipend? That is necessary. Unless you've lived it, you don't understand it, Mr. Speaker. That's all I say.
Thank you, Honourable Member. As many